Hello friends, good morning to all of you and you are welcome to our channel. In today's video, we will discuss about the statistical tools which are used to analyze the data in our research. So first of all, we have to discuss about the research. Research has a wide area. We have to compare the research with ocean. We see in the ocean we goes deeper and deeper and deeper, then we can find a valuable things. So like this in research, we are going to deeper and deeper in the research, we can got the fruitful results. So first, what is the research? According to the scientific definition, research is a systematic process of collecting and analyzing informations in order to increase our understanding of the phenomena about which we are concerned or interested. That means it is the systematic arrangement of the informations which proved by the previous authors or researchers. We have to analyze these information and arrange into a systematic form. So this one becomes our research. We are discussing an example. A well-known mathematician, I think you are familiar with this mathematician whose name is Pythagoras. Who is the well-known mathematician? Pythagoras and his group discovered many geometric properties and developed the theory of geometry to great extent. This process continued till 300 BC. At that time, Euclid, a teacher of mathematics at Alexandria in Egypt, collected all the known results, known work, and arranged it in his famous treatise. This treatise is called Elements. He divides these elements into 13 chapters. Each chapter is the separate book. This book influenced the whole world understanding of geometry for generations to come. This is the research of Euclid's. Euclid's rearranged the research done by the Pythagoras and his groups. Euclid's did not done any new something, but he arranged the work done by the Pythagoras and his group and reformed this research in the form of a book. So this is the research of the Euclids. So research by the name, it's not a search, it is the research. We are arranging the observations, we are arranging the search done by the previous authors in a systematic way. Then this systematic way becomes the research, is our research. Now, to do the research, it's a very important hypothesis. We are discussing a minor things about research and hypothesis because our main motive is to discuss the statistical tool. That means statistical techniques to analyze the data. But before going to statistical analysis, we have to discuss some definitions like hypothesis. What do you mean by hypothesis? Hypothesis, a research hypothesis is a statement of expectation or prediction that will be tested by research. That means it is the assumption by the researchers. And after collecting the data and analysis them, the researchers come to the point that this statement is wrong or right. That is, the hypothesis is accepted or it is rejected. Mainly the hypothesis divided into two parts. There are many types of the hypothesis, but mainly there are two. One is null hypothesis and another is the alternate hypothesis. In null hypothesis, we are taking there is no difference, there is no relation between the variables. That means we are taking an example of today's age, that there is no significant difference between the online and offline classes. In our statement, there are two variables, one is online class and another is offline class. Our hypothesis, null hypothesis, becomes that there is no significant difference between the online and offline classes. But I am a researcher. I am saying that there is a difference between online and offline class. So it becomes the alternate hypothesis. Alternate hypothesis is totally opposite to the null hypothesis. Right? Now, how we can formulation of the research hypothesis? That means how we can design the hypothesis. The first point, be sure to read on the topic to familiarize yourself with it before making a final decision. That means if we have to read about the literature review and about the previous research, and we have to come on a point that what is the research gap and how we can find this research gap. Then we have to finalize our hypothesis. So first of all, we have to read about our topic in detail. Right? Second, avoid judgment word in your hypothesis. Your hypothesis should be according to your population, according to the previous research. It's not contain your judgment. So always avoid to judgment word in your hypothesis. Right? The next, your hypothesis must involve an issue or question that cannot be answered exclusively by the discipline of law. That means your hypothesis have a question which cannot be answered by the previous authors. It must be a new question. That means this is your statement. So you have to find something new according to this question, according to this hypothesis. Next, be sure that each term in your hypothesis is clearly understood and defined. That means after deciding your hypothesis, you have to collect the data, you have to prepare the questionnaires based on the hypothesis. If your hypothesis is clear, then your questions of the questionnaires is also clear and easy to understand for the respondent. So it is mandatory that your hypothesis, your statement should be always clear and understandable. Right? Next, know that your hypothesis may change over time as your research progress. When your research progress is going on, maybe your hypothesis may be changed, but you have to obtain your hypothesis by taking the help of your colleagues, help of your professors, and modify your hypothesis according to the time being. So before proceeding your hypothesis, you have to discuss with your guide, co-guide and your research colleagues. And after that, you have to finalize your final hypothesis. Now, how you can express? You will be expressing your hypothesis in three ways. One, as a one sentence hypothesis. A good hypothesis should be one sentence hypothesis. As a research question, is a good research question according to after designing your hypothesis, your hypothesis must contain a single sentence question. As a title of your paper, That means your hypothesis may be a title of your research paper. You have to present a research paper. You have to prepare a research paper on your hypothesis. This your hypothesis will becomes a part of your research proposal, because before going to your research proposal, you have to finalize your hypothesis. After finalize your hypothesis, you have to comes to your research proposal. Now we are comes to our main points. Testing of hypothesis. How we can test our hypothesis? We can test our hypothesis by using various statistical tools like correlation analysis, like t-test, z-test, chi-square test, and so on. There are many statistical tools which we can use and test the hypothesis. In our today's videos, we will discuss the one way ANOVA, that means analysis of variance. One way analysis of variance is used to test the claim that three or more populations means are equal. That means one way ANOVA is used where three or more population have their same means. In this case, we have to use the one way ANOVA. It is the extension of two independent sample t-tests. Where there are two sample tests, we can use the t-test, but we have three or more, then it is the extension, and we can use the ANOVA, analysis of variance, in one way. In one way analysis, in one way ANOVA, there is a null hypothesis. That means their all means of are equal. The null hypothesis that means are all equal, and alternate hypothesis is that at least one of means is different. Right? The null hypothesis, that means all the three or more samples, three or more groups have the same mean. Alternate is at least one of them has different mean. The statistic classroom, we are discussing a one way ANOVA by taking an example with the help of example. We are taking an example of a classroom. We have to divide our classroom into three groups. First group, front row. Second group, middle row. And the third group is back row. The teacher noticed that the further the students were from him, the more likely they missed to class or use an instant messenger during the class. He wanted to see if the student further away did worse on exam. That means the teachers wants the students who are further away, they perform worst in the examination. A random sample of the students in each row was taken. In one way ANOVA, we are taking the random samplings. The source of these students on the second exam, the second results are recorded as in the front row. Students getting marks 82, 83, 97, 93, 55, 67 and 53. That means there are 7 students. Marks obtained by the students are these. In middle row, there are 9 students and marks obtained by these 9 students are 83, 78, 68, 61, 77, 54, 69, 51 and 63. And in the back row, marks obtained by the 8 students are 38, 59, 55, 66, 45, 52, 52 and 61. We have to prepare a table to statistical analysis. First of all, we have to find the mean of each row, standard deviation of each row and variance of the each row. So by the table, we have to see that the sample size of the front row is 7 because there are 7 students. The sample size for the middle row is 9 and the sample size for the back row is 8. We have to find first the mean of the first row, add the observation divided by 7 So we get the result 75.71, and mean of the second row is 67.11. Mean of the back row is 53.50. Likewise, we have to find the variance and standard deviation. Standard deviation for the first row is 17.63, middle row is 10.95, and back row is 8.96. Variance of the first row is 310.90, middle row is 119.86, and back row is 80.29. Now variance. How we can find the variance? Variance is the sum of the square of the deviations between a value and the mean of value. Sum of the square is abbreviated by SS. S for sum and S for square. Sum of square is abbreviated by SS and often followed by variables in parentheses such as SSB, that means the sum of squares between the groups, and SSW, sum of the squares within the groups. How we can find? There are the two sources of the variation. The variation between the groups SSB, it is also known as variation due to the factor. The variation within the group SSW, or the variation that cannot be explained by the factor, so it is called the error variation also. Between the group variations SSB, for finding the SSB, the between group variation is the variation between each sample mean and the grand mean. Sample means that means the mean of the sample, that means first row, second row and third row, and grand means the total mean of the sample. Each individual variation is weighted by the sample size. In the first row, sample size is 7, in second row, sample size is 9, and third row, sample size is 8. So in this example, we can find the SSB, sum of the square between the variance is 1900. Right? Now we have to find the sum of the square between the within the group. The within the group variation is the weighted total of the individual variations. The weight is done with the degree of the freedom. For finding the sum of the square within the group, we need the degree of freedom. The degree of freedom, what is the degree of freedom? Degree of freedom for each sample is 1 less than the sample size of that sample. For example, in the first row there are 7 students, 7 samples, so degree of freedom becomes 7 minus 1 is 6. For the middle row, the degree of freedom becomes 9 minus 1 is 8, and for the last back row, the degree of freedom becomes 8 minus 1 is 7. So for this example, we have to find sum of the square within the group is 3386. So now we have to prepare a table for the one-way ANOVA. We need source, sum of the squares, degree of freedom, mean of squares, F statics, and ultimately last p values. Between the groups, within the groups, and total. We see we have to already find that the sum of the square between the groups is 1902, sum of the square within the group is 3386, and the total sum of the square is 5288. In the next column, we have to find the degree of freedom. The between group degree is 1 less the number of groups. We have 3 groups. Between the groups, that means in our example there are 3 groups. So degree of freedom between the groups is 3 minus 2 is equal to 2. Within group, degree is the sum of the individual degrees of freedoms of each groups. The sample size is 7, 9 and 8. So degree within the group are 7 minus 1, 6, plus 9 minus 1, 8, plus 8 minus 1, 7. That is 6 plus 8 plus 7 is equal to 21. That is the degree between the group is 2. Degree within the group is 21. the total degree of freedom is 1 less than the sample size. That means the total samples are 7, 9 and 8. Therefore, total sums are 7 plus 8, 9 plus 8 is 24. So, degree of freedom is 24 minus 1 is equal to 23. Right? Now we have to put the degree of freedoms in this table. Degree of freedom between group is 2, degree of freedom within the group is 21 and the total degree of freedom is 23. In the next step we have to find the mean of squares. The variance are also called the mean of the squares and abbreviated by MS. Often with the accompanying variable MSB or MSW. That means the mean of the squares between the groups and mean of the squares within the group. MSB between the group and MSW within the group. They are an average squared deviation from the mean and founded by finding the variation by the degree of freedom. That means the mean of the square can be found by using the formula sum of the squares divided by degree of freedom. So, mean of squares between the group is 1902 divided by 2 is 151 and mean of the squares within the group is 3386 divided by 21 is equal to 161.2 and the total mean of the squares is 5288 divided by 23 is 229.9. Now in the next step we have to find the F static. An F test static is the ratio of the two sample variance. The mean of the square between group and the mean of the square within the group are the two sample variances and that's what we divide to find F. That means F is equal to MS B divided by MS W. In our observation in our data, F is equal to 951.0 divided by 661.2 which is equal to 5.9. So we have to put the value of F statics in our table. Right? In the next step we have to find the P value. The F test is a right tail test. The F test static has a F distribution with MSP numerator and MSW denominator. The P value is the area to right of the test statics. P, the degree of freedom between the group is 2 and the degree of the freedom within the group is 21. So F221 is greater than 5.9. Then the P value, automatically we have to find the P value by softwares as 0.09. When we have to put the degree of freedom is 2 within the group, between the group and the degree of the freedom within the group is 21 and F value is 5.9, then value of P is 0.09. We have to put the value of P in this table and conclude last. The P value is 0.09 which is less than the significant level of 0.05. Significant value is totally depend on our hypothesis. When we have to formulate our hypothesis, we decided which one is the value of the significant value. Significant value may be 0.01 or maybe 0.05. In our question, we are taking the significant value is 0.05. Most probably in 99 cases, we have to take the significant level is 0.05. Now, P value, that means 0.09 is less than 0.05. So, reject the null hypothesis. The null hypothesis is that the means of 3 rows in class were same, but we reject that, so at least one row has a different mean. There is enough evidence to support the claim that there is a difference in the mean score of the front, middle and back rows in class. So by using the one-way analysis, one-way ANOVA, we find that the null hypothesis is rejected. That means we conclude that at least one means is different. But it's not possible to find which row is different. So thanks to all. I hope it is useful for you. We will meet in the next video for different statistical tools. So see our videos, watch our videos, subscribe our channel for more and more statistical tools videos to analysis the hypothesis and research methodologies also. So thanks to all. Have a nice day.